Hello, family. Welcome back to Dark Woke, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and frequent nuisance in the activist and comedy worlds. Let's get dialed in. But just before we jump, Dark Woke is a self-funded, self-produced show. We're on Patreon/Dark Woke. I am so grateful for all the support and for you just taking the time to listen. Okay, you know what it is. It's all about the Oscars. Yes, we're going to talk some Russia. We're going to talk some Rogan/Muskie. But we've got to talk about the Oscars. And, you know, it's one of those moments, right, where it's really the culture. And as you know, I've been grappling with this, you know, how much is politics, how much is culture, but culture is ahead of the curve when it comes to politics, and it follows culture. And I'm thinking of like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, which was just really a match in elder abuse. But I remember an 8-year-old asking me about it, an 8-year-old boy who uses YouTube, who asked me if I was going to watch the fight, or like my sister's husband asking me the same thing. These cultural moments are great indicators and great reflectors of where we are in the culture, of, you know, what it means to be a person in society right now. And so I watched the Oscars with that in mind, and I'm going to save us some time. I did get to see Adrian Brody and Halle Berry make out, so it was a callback apparently. And I was like, well, nobody called me, so I don't care. And then I was obviously watching the whole Carlos Sofia Gascon fiasco, because I'm just like, I read this thing. I gotta read it till it made me laugh so hard. Okay. So this was somebody who was reporting from the Dolby Theater. So this is where the Oscars took place. But this is the journalist, Carlos Sofia Gascon, walked out to the bar to get a drink, surrounded by a phalanx of people. And remember, like, this is a person who tweeted out a lot of really wild shit. And, you know, I'm always like, you guys, be normal. Don't over exaggerate. It's like everybody says wild stuff. But then I read what she actually said, and I was like, oh no, this is pretty incredible stuff. I mean, she was talking about COVID being a Chinese vaccine. Like, what's wrong with you? And then also, you know, what'd she say? She referred to COVID as the vaccine, the Chinese vaccine, apart from the mandatory chip, comes with 2 spring rolls, a cat that moves its hand, 2 plastic flowers, a pop-up lantern, 3 telephone lines, and €1 for your first controlled blah, 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 blah. So that was a direct quote of hers. She also referred to, you know, different film award ceremonies being Afro-Korean festivals because people of color had been, and Black people had been nominated. So she's not the best. I just needed to tee that up, right? So, and then she does this whole independent PR campaign, which is so unbelievably terrible. Like, I could have saved you like 2 minutes of time with me, and I could have had you in the bag. Like, all you had to do was say that you were one of these angry, you know, white guys who couldn't find work and couldn't make no sense, but really deep down, you're just a transvestite, like, you know, suppressed about everything you want, needing a buck, and then you got some work and you transitioned, and now you're a whole different bitch. Like, you could have had it in the bag. Anyway, sorry, I had to remind myself that maybe not everybody knows what I'm talking about. So here it is. You have this trans woman, this white trans woman from Spain, who is the first to be nominated for an Oscar as a whole transgender, just a transgendering in the world. And she fumbled the bag. So since then, she's kind of like Netflix split ties from her. Like, it's just been awkward. And it's like, I'm like, is society healing if nobody likes her? Like, is that, like, including trans people, does that mean society is healing? Okay, now I'm going to go back to this thing that I saw that made me laugh. It's okay. So it goes, Carla Sofia Gascon walked out to the bar to get a drink, surrounded by a phalanx of people, including her daughter, her agent, a concerned publicist from Netflix, and private security. Now, knowing what you know, that line is very funny. That is a very funny line, okay? So she was kissed by Adrian Brody. I guess he was very active that night, who chatted with her. When approached by a Times reporter, Gascon was jovial and interested in chatting. But before she could get out any answer, the Netflix publicist shut down any more conversation and moved the reporter away from Gascon, later saying, "I hope you understand." Gascon fetched her drink, winked, and blew a kiss before being whisked away. Incredible. That is a film I would watch 1,000 times. I would watch this one scene. I looked for video footage of it and could not find it. This is art. This is high art. Okay. Anyway, just like, I hope you understand. And a concerned publicist. Incredible stuff. Anyway, it's a great reflection of the moment that we're in. You know, of course, that film is largely hated by popular culture. It was widely celebrated. Zoe Saldana won an award in her role as supporting. She did not mention her transgender nephew, but she did thank everybody else. And I don't say that to be mean. I just thought it was so cute because during all the hullabaloo around Gascon, Saldana was definitely like, "This is who I'm doing it for." And maybe, you know what? Maybe she said his name or their name and I just didn't know who it was. It's possible. But anyway, I was really looking forward to that personally. You know, there was a lot of wins. You know, first black man to be nominated, Oscar winning, sorry, to win, you know, costume design. That was a big thing. I'm just like trying to be like, how do I get to the juice? Okay, let's just get to the juice. Adrian Brody wins for The Brutalist, right? And again, this was the first time during an Oscars ceremony where the majority of people that I know who aren't cinephiles, but maybe a couple of steps below, did not see every movie, right? And it's like, there's something, and you know, we talked about it, I'm sure you felt it, there's something a little bit dystopian about having these award ceremonies during what very much is consistent with a fascist takeover, despite everybody wanting to tell us otherwise. It's just so classic textbook. While things like Medicaid are being gutted. And at the same time, they're very much reflectors of this moment. And this, you know, we look at these people in the film industry, we look at, you know, everybody on the red carpet, right? They look great. And a lot of them might have, you know, more money than any of us will see in our lifetime. And still, the process of making something is very difficult. I think of Anora, which swept, right? Absolutely swept in so many ways. Sean Baker, who is himself a controversial figure, has typically told stories of women and girls that nobody gives a fuck about, nobody cares about, and shoots things in really avant-garde, much more affordable kind of ways. Like think of the Florida Project where he shot it, you know, off of a cell phone and off an iPhone at that. Think of Tangerine, you know, which followed, you know, transgender women and sex workers and, you know, told that story. And then you get Anora. So Sean Baker won an Oscar in editing. He won an Oscar, you know, in the screenplay. And he just, I mean, it was an absolute sweep. And, you know, there is a lot of murmurings, right, that he is very much a supporter of Zionism. He definitely follows some things on his account that you juxtapose that, right? So here's a person who made a film. Let me just make sure I get all of his wins down. Because I'm like, I know he... So, yeah, 4 Oscars. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that I was like, how many did I say? Because I was going to say 5. But no. he won. Okay, no, Anora won 5 Oscars in total, including Best Actress for Mikey Madison, and huge congrats to her. It's super earned, although, we'll talk about that in a second. But he got Best Director, right? It was like Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Editing, whatever, right? And, here's a guy who is known for his independent films about marginalized communities. He writes about sex workers and immigrants, right? Red Rocket, Tangerine, which is the Breakout the Florida Project, all on an iPhone. And while accepting Best Original Screenplay, Baker thanked the sex work community for contributing to his storytelling. This is a moment in time when the world absolutely, undeniably hates women very nakedly and very openly, while pretending, at least in America, that it doesn't. So compare that, right? Take a moment for that. Just pause. Now add to the fact that no other land, right? A Palestinian documentary about kind of the friendship between two men, an Israeli man and a Palestinian man, but it very much tells the truth about what is happening in Palestine. Okay? So this film, No Other Land, a film very much pro-Palestine, but very much rooted in love and care. I've seen it, and story and resilience and commitment. And again, it is about this friendship primarily, right? And these two men navigating the weight of history and actions that very much, feel beyond them, right? But they are exploring the devastation and the strength and the hope and all the other things in this film. It's an Oscar. It's a heavily Oscar nominated film, right? And has no U.S. distribution. That is unprecedented. I really need us to understand this. And now it's an Oscar winning documentary that is unprecedented. It has 0 U.S. distribution. That has never happened. Now I'm part of a campaign behind the scenes, not only to help draw attention to, for full disclosure, I've met with the directors and the makers of this film and some of the producers, because we're all very aware of the pushback against this film. So not just simply for it to get attention and awareness, which it really deserves, and not just to get it picked up for U.S. distribution, but also because of what it means for Palestinian economy. And this is something that we don't really talk about enough, right? We've got this, it's a shoe brand called Resolute. I follow them on IG and I put it in my stories, but go ahead and check it out yourself. But they were wearing these shoes throughout, and it's referenced different points in time throughout the film. But these are Palestinian women primarily who make these shoes. And of the shoes, they have all of the pieces, and of course the shoes are, I think, sewn in Portugal, I want to say, because some of the infrastructure isn't there in Palestine. But the proceeds, all the money goes to them, and so it's not just about us giving GoFundMe's and talking about Palestine, but really investing in Palestinian economy, because that's what Israel is really, not just on its murder, but hell-bent on destroying Palestinians, is of course making them completely isolated and dependent on whatever handouts they give and whatever humanitarian aid they allow through. So when we support Palestinians for Palestinian economy, we are taking a step further to actualize our commitment to the place. So the shoe brand's name is Resolute. You can find it on IG, but I'm comparing these two things to say, like, I'm happy, right? I saw these different things, but until I hear something explicitly about Baker, it's like, I won't go so far as to, like, I understand the propaganda project that Zionism has been very successful in doing, that has led to Jewish extremism, that we are seeing here in the United States and also really around the world, but really very much so in Israel. I haven't heard him say anything explicitly. I do know he follows several accounts that are pro-Israel, and I'm not interested in making those kinds of assumptions. That's not enough for me, but I do want to juxtapose and let me know if you guys know more. But either way, it doesn't change this fact. Like, juxtapose those two things. Here's a guy who does something that doesn't get done anymore, which is making an independent film for $6 million, right? It sweeps the Oscars. He doesn't use a superstar, right? He uses Mikey Madison, who was very much, you know, an up and coming, you know, actor, and tells the story of the sex working, you know, young woman. Of course, they say it's kind of weird. She does feel like a little bit not the protagonist at times. She did a stellar job, right? But think about that juxtaposition. So on one hand, right, we've got a sweep for something like that absolutely deserves it. A film that had a significantly smaller budget than any other film, right? Significantly, massively so. In terms of films of its class, right? The other films that was nominated alongside Anora. And yet, you know, in the same breath, we have a film that is centered in love and but cannot escape the geopolitical realities of it in the same way that, you know, culture tries to course correct. I noticed that, right? If it's a balancing game. If something goes too far to the right, culture swings further to the left, right? And so it tracks that a film about a sex worker that is independent would do the unthinkable and unseat Wicked, which has its own implications, right? And Wicked and what's oh my God, how do I forget this? The film Demi was in, The Substance, okay? And that is very much a film that has so much to do with the way that women are treated in this moment. And then you have Wicked, right? That's, you know, two strong female protagonists. Elphaba is being played by a black woman who put micro braids in and insisted in, and all these things. There's all these elements, right? And really take a beat and you think about The Brutalist. And The Brutalist itself is an exploration of male ego, right? Shot on 70 millimeter for the most part. It's 4 hours long, all this stuff. All of these films, like, were struggles to be made. And none of them are escapable from this political moment that we're in. It all means something. It all means something, right? It all means something. It all tells a story. And this is why I'm like, oh, this shit really is in the culture, right? But I can't get over this No Other Land thing. It's unprecedented to be that Oscar nominated, right? To then win an Oscar and have 0 U.S. distribution. There's something that I read, and I put it in my stories. I just want to make sure I get it exactly correct. No Other Land now has more Oscars than it did distribution offers, a great and enduring shame upon the American film industry. Be Palestine Forever. That's from David Ehrlich, who I put in my thing. But it's just so odd, right? It's so odd. And I definitely thought it was going to go to Cynthia Erivo or Demi Moore. But it says something about this time and this culture that we're in, that this is what won. And so it is absolutely significant, right? And at the same time, it's hard, especially when you consider the implications surrounding Sean Baker, that this other film that is also deserving, that was made under the most impossible conditions, gets 0 support from the Academy. Despite the fact that every single human rights organization in the world now, right? Sure. And I'm not, and you already know where I'm at with this, right? But sure, you could say, a lot of people might not have known coming in post around October 7th what the histories were, because people be ignorant and this country is determined to make ignorant people. But now, you can't say that now. So I've been, and just being a part of this, I thought certainly this will change, but it hasn't changed. And so I'm going to keep talking about this, and I'm going to keep driving us towards Resolute, which is something that we can do that isn't just talking about Palestinians as if, as somebody, as a population already gone. When we invest in the Palestinian economy, we're actually investing in Palestinian future, in the future of Palestine. So, go ahead with those shoes. The other thing I wanted to mention with The Brutalist, right, was it in of itself, it was very difficult to make. And again, we see the red carpet, we see the glitz and the glam. And of course, there's hours that go into this, but it's hard not to imagine the lives of these people, right? It's really hard not to. And certainly for the actors, if you were Oscar nominated, even your career is kind of made. There can be upsets for sure, but your career is kind of made. The vast majority of actors do not ever, have that opportunity for a lot of different reasons. And the vast majority of films do not get made. But even still, I was able to pull this clip. So this is Brady Corbet, who directed The Brutalist. And, even that film, again, is as much as it is about the architecture itself, it's not my favorite kind of architecture. Blame York University. It's covered in brutalist architecture. So I just have negative associations with it. And it's not particularly pretty. But it is an exploration of male ego in a lot of ways. And the film it was made the way, like, according to the vision of Corbet and everybody in that film. And I do appreciate, because that was a fight. Who's making a 4-hour film? Like these days, you know what I mean? And I'll go into something else, but I wanted to play this clip. So I pulled this clip. This is Brady Corbet talking to Mark Maron on his What the F podcast. And hopefully it's okay. Don't snitch on me, because I think I can do this, right? But they're talking about, Brady Corbet is talking about the money surrounded the film. And I just thought that this was important for me to bring some attention to. So I'm just going to play this clip for you. And so remember, this is Mark Maron, who starts out, because there's no visuals for this. So Mark Maron starts out asking Brady about it. And then you'll hear Brady answer. He is the softer tone.
Full evening.
Well, that's lucky, man. All right, so tell me about this. I think it's interesting if you want to talk about it before whatever unfolds here. But so, in the kitchen there, you mentioned that you had to shoot this commercial.
Yeah, I just directed 3 advertisements in Portugal, but pre-production was in the UK.
Yeah.
It's the first time that I had made any money, really, in years, because both my partner and I made $0 on the last 2 films that we made. So.
I just want to be clear, right before Mark Maron also, that means that Brady Corbet and his partner, who is his wife and also, produces and everything alongside him, they made $0 from this. Yeah, like we love the arts. Oh, the arts are so incredible. Everybody needs to make more films. Go watch film. And literally, this man made nothing from this, right?
0.
Yes, actually 0. So we had to, just sort of like live off of a paycheck from 3 years ago. And obviously the time.
And this is standard in the industry. And look, I'm not industry proper, right? I'm sort of like a weird, was there for a minute and was like, oh, okay, nope, don't know. Like I just needed to figure out what I felt my best contribution was. And it wasn't modeling. You know what I mean? Standing beside, as I mentioned, standing beside Alex Kosani, I'm like, yeah, no, they're putting me with the girls. Like, no. With the boys, I'm talking to their navels. Like, you should be, I was like, let me be where I'm a heavyweight. But no, it was largely because my work is not finished. And sure, every now and again, if I'm ever important, a little on the side gigs here and there, that's great. But this is the work I needed to be in. But what we don't understand about industry, that includes writers, right? And I know a lot of people who are writers who have now been forced to leave LA because the way the industry has shrunk, because we don't have good antitrust laws, because this economy is bupkis, because paying for rent is fucking impossible, is that you get a big chunk of money sometimes, right? So when Brady was talking about, we lived off of this single paycheck, that's typically how it goes. Like you get a large chunk of money and then a bunch of it goes, 30% like goes to the IRS, 10% goes to management, 10% goes to your agent. If you have any kind of business managers, that's another 5%. And then you kind of have to spread it out in a salary, and that's how that works. And so if any of you are out there and you're shocked and you're like, how was he able to live off of a paycheck for a couple of years? That's typically how it goes, is you get this big chunk, everybody gets their piece out of it, and you kind of have to, and you have to stretch it out because the time between projects is like pretty massive. It's years in between. And I think, you know, there are obviously people with different levels of success, but for the most part, this is more the standard and this is the norm. The idea of work just coming in is not actually, and constantly coming in, only happens for very select, lucky, and very well-connected few.
During an awards campaign and having to travel every 2 or 3 days was less than ideal, but it sort of was an opportunity that landed in my lap, and I jumped at it.
Well, I guess I guess for me as an outsider, but I understand the business to a certain degree, that the idea that you have this this film that's amazing and it's nominated for these awards, and yet you don't have any money.
Yeah, I've spoken to many filmmakers, you know, like that have films that are nominated this year that can't pay their rent. I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah,
it's
incredible.
I mean,
that's just damn, just fucking damn.
You're not paid to be promoting a film, and you know, like if you look at certain films that premiered in Cannes, you know, that was almost a year ago. So like,
what are you gonna do? You got to work, right?
Yeah, like imagine like just like, I mean, our film premiered in September, so I've been doing this for 6 months,
right?
And had zero income because I don't have any time to.
So this was, just to be clear, this was recorded on February 17th. So at that point, like that's where it's being with them. So that's, you know, just a couple of weeks ago.
To work, like I can't even take a writing job at the moment.
Right, because anything you're going to do is going to take months.
Correct.
And, you know, you got to lock in, so that would make it harder to do this.
Well, it's also, I mean, what's so crazy about promoting a film, I mean, to this, you know, because it's extend, I mean, because it's opening internationally at the same time that it's opening domestically.
Yeah.
So that means that you're doing Japanese press, Swiss press, you know, I mean, like everything all at once.
Right.
And it's
I'm going to let this go until he closes his thought, because I'm like, where are we going with this? I'm kind of like listening to now, and it's like, no, wait, this is it's like Inception podcast. I'm just like, oh.
It's 7 days a week. It's boundless. Like it's not
travel.
It's constant travel, and but you're also working Saturdays and Sundays. Like I haven't had a day off since the Christmas break.
Yeah.
And that was also only 4 days.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that feels like a good spot to end the thought, which is, so as much as we're seeing this like very glamorous night and very glamorous affair, there's the vast majority of normal people there have lives very much consistent with ours. You know, like last month, for example, I mean, I still feel weird like saying this, and it was for weird, but I didn't have healthcare last month. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was kind of spreading my inhaler halfway through because I didn't know when it was going to happen. And I didn't, the whole thing was confusing to me. And, you know, and that can just happen to you in LA and in America. You can just not have healthcare for a month and then have to figure out how to, you know, get on it. And, you know, what are the barriers and all this stuff. And so, you know, when I pay attention to the Oscars, when I'm watching the Oscars, I'm looking at it from multiple vantage points. And I think that's what's so great about understanding this culture. So I'm just going to, that episode was 1618 on, you know, What the F with Mark Maron. And I think the timestamp that I kind of jumped in was around the 18-minute and 33-second mark, just in case there's anybody who's like, I've got to know what else happened. So I just have to know. Yeah, I like Mark Maron, but that's it. He made $0 from The Brutalist, and the money that he did make came from commercial shoots, right? And he had to do that while he was running around doing this press circuit, also not making money. And that is the nature of the game. And sometimes it's, you know, and I say this because a lot of you are artists. not all of you, but a lot of you are artists. And I think it's really hard to put value on our work if nobody sees it and nobody pays for it and everything else. And I'm like, no, that's the best fucking work. And you do it because it makes you happy. And sometimes if you're really lucky or, you really want to do it that way, you can make a business out of it, but don't ever, ever make small, the work that you do and you're invested in, because that is art. That's the most pure kind of art. Art is subversive and it is very much reflective of our society, but it also, when we make things outside of the, this capitalist framework, that's when we make the best shit, So those are just thoughts, that I had. I enjoyed listening to Nick Offerman yap. He's so great at it. I listen to him all the time. I want to sound like him. Is there a vocal coach that can teach me how to talk, how to get a baritone as deep as Nick Offerman? Now it's time to get into a little bit of the newsy news, because I did see that Zelensky shit, and that shit blew my mind, right? But right before we move into that, I just want to say it was the politics of no other land that has deterred distributors, even though it won Best Documentary. But what is the politics of the film that was co-directed by an Israeli and a Palestinian? Stop the injustice. That's what distributors couldn't get behind. It's just too much. Too scary, right? Come on. It's really gross. And, these kinds of topical documentaries have really struggled to secure distribution. And it's like, that's how we learn, right? It's of immediate relevance. I just want to define topical, right? Because I got it confused. I don't know. But it's like, what does topical mean? Of immediate relevance, interest, or importance owing to its relation to current events. So I want to be clear. Topical documentaries are currently struggling with distributors, which means that distributors are deciding what is important or significant for us to know. We don't get to make that decision. Our votes on these films and our interest in these films don't get to make the decision. These fucking cowards, even as they gut the industry, right, for everything it's like just stripping any and every piece of real art from it, we're losing the recipes, right? These new execs fucking are shit. If you talk to any of filmmakers and TV folks, especially folks who have been in the game for a long time, some of whom we'll be bringing on to this show, in time. They will tell you that these new execs are they're terrified. They're just scared all the time of their bottom line. They're terrified of losing money. They don't move with power. They don't move in an art-focused way. That's the terrified ones are one side of it. The other side is the greedy kind. They don't give a fuck about art. They're like, how can I quote, I'm using air quotes, save this company as much money as possible? It's nothing to do with art. So everything that we're seeing in these awards show is very much connected to the cultural events of this moment. And there are ways that we have to be careful, I think, of the seduction of culture as a means of alleviating fascism. As a whole black, as a nignog, I can tell you that cultural presence does not equal systemic power. And that's what I care about. So we have to weigh in on the cultural events. We have to be very keen and aware. But if we don't have systemic power in addition to the culture, then we don't have anything. And, we now know that we are currently the counterculture, which is actually the best place for leftists. We just need to clear the path. Anywho, okay. Been yapping. Was again really surprised that at the upset of Mikey Madison, and I think she did a phenomenal job in the role. And Wicked, to be honest with you, is the only film that really had like a massive PR run that felt very like a little bit consistent with Oppenheimer and Barbie. And I can't say what went into everything, but it was a sweep. It was a sweep for Baker. And that has everything to do with this cultural moment and everything to do with the larger geopolitical realities that we talked about, which might not necessarily directly promote one film, but it's certainly deprioritized another. And that is really ugly. So there's something, there is something I read that over the weekend that was really weird. Outside of the fact that Trump made English the U.S. official, the United States official language, I was like, what the fuck is the point? What is the point of that? What is the point of that? But, it's just an extension of the SAVE Act and everything else, right? We talked about where it was like, you need to have your birth certificate and your passport and all these other things. And even though now you have all these TERFs saying, well, what if the birth certificate could be altered because they're fucking cunts? Wait, no, I said I didn't want to use misogynist terms. They're fucking dickheads, right? I like to use misogynist terms if I'm going to, because I think cuss words should be free. But, I'm not going to make it on the nose, right? Thank you. Thank you for that check back in the day when I was just using hoes only in negative context. It's true. There's hoeing and there's hoeing, right? And there's the great kind and the shit kind. And the shit kind is any time that you're helping fucking billionaires and capitalism and fascists and late stage capitalism at that. But these things are very much connected. And I've thought about doing a little segment on it. And I was like, no, it's just part of their, let's make everything super rigid and super annoying and religious and very much WASP. It's not even just white, it's WASP. It's the worst kind. Nobody likes WASP culture. Nobody's happy. And honestly, look how they fully have everything and they're still not happy. And there was this whole thing, somebody put an article out that said, I think it was like an opinion piece over the weekend, like, why white men won't stop complaining or something like that, or white men won't stop complaining. And honest to God, can we stop writing those pieces? Like, I get it, right? And it's like, there's nothing more annoying than an aggrieved, Caucasian. It's true, right? Except for aggrieved just about anybody else. I'll just say this. It gives them what they want and it doesn't do anything. Those fucking think pieces belong in like 2012. Just quit it. And it's like, you're not saying anything that we don't know. So maybe don't. I don't know. Feel free to push back on that, y'all. I'm just sort of like, I saw it and I'm like, it kind of reminds me of that piece that broke the internet for a minute. Let me think. Okay. It was in The Root, which is not something anybody reads anymore. But at one point it was like a good, sort of like a good place for Black journalism. But the Black information economy has been absolutely fucking gutted, right? It's just been gutted. Now we get tabloid shit now, right? I hate that shit. Anyway, oh my God. I just had a complete brain fart. Oh, right. Sorry. There was this piece that was called, that it said, what is it? Black men are the white people of Black people, and it fucking broke the internet. And remember when think pieces could do that? Remember when a think piece could have the culture by the balls for an entire 24-hour cycle, and now it's like, that's not the case. Like, if you're lucky, it's a Sunday. But anyway, it just reminds me of things like that. And I'm like, aren't we done with these like annoying takes? And, maybe I need to bring it back and take it to Substack where we write our dark woke pieces. Anyway, just for the debate. Because we got to create spectacle. But I was just like, can you not give them what they want unless they're going to come out swinging? Like, let's see all the video clips. Let's clip it. Let's go. So that was one thing that made me laugh. The stupid piece and, just the language being an extension, making English an extension of this like larger, annoying, boring project. But there's this other thing. It said, in a Washington Post did thing. And they said, the house color that tells you when a neighborhood is gentrifying. And I was like, this one feels on the nose. So I obviously needed to know which color it was. And it said, a Washington Post color analysis of DC, right? And this is in neighborhoods where white populations have increased and Black populations have decreased, was shades of gray. First of all, irony much, but second of all, so ugly. Go away. And it's always gray with that annoying fence. Just be normal. Like, what I like brick and I like flowers and I like a little bit of mess and stupid gray. And that was the other thing. There were other determinants like really flat, minimalist, like grass shit, like not pretty, not nice to look at. And it's like, yeah, that tracks because that's WASP culture. Nobody likes WASP culture. Italians don't. The Irish don't. The freckled don't. And they're coming after all of you. So you better join us. Okay, now we got to cover. Gosh, it feels so much better when we can just breathe into these episodes. I really was like, I was like, oh, we got 30 minutes. We got to go. And it's true. It's a lot more prep work, but it also makes the episodes feel much more meaningful. And I know that y'all have said the same thing, and it means the world. Okay, I'm looking at time, and I'm like, we have two options. We either going to do the that weird, gross show of Vance and Zelensky and Trump. They were so actually, you know what? Let's just do it. They were so fucking weird and so intense. So I'm going to be playing some clips of that because I could not. It was like the fact that they weren't embarrassed by this is unbelievable to me. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, okay, I'm going to pull up this clip. So, sometime late last week, I had to have been on a Friday or possibly a Thursday so it was February 28th. Zelensky, right? The president of Ukraine came to America to sign this new minerals deal with Donald Trump and in the United States. Okay? That's all. And JD Vance was in the room and everything else. So February 28th. Why am I in March? Oh, I was about to say, why am I in March? How about because it is March? It's March. Okay. So this is on the Friday. I'm going to play this for you. You're not going to, I can't believe what I saw. It was unbelievable. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to play it for you and you can listen to it. So Vladimir, Zelensky is there. And he's listening to them talk to him about his behavior, okay? Because I said Vladimir, but it's more like Volodymyr or something. But I just got to play it.
Gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very...
Just as a man, right? And, anybody would feel fucked up. But, Ukrainian men are just built different. I'm talking about this from, boxing, right? Like, they're built different. Like, if you've ever seen... Because, remember, I'm a boxer. I'm a fan, okay? If you have ever seen Lomachenko in the ring... Okay? Y'all, if you have ever seen Lomachenko in the ring, you know that they move different, right? They move different. If you have ever seen Alexander Usyk, right? Usyk who upset Tyson Fury, one of the best heavyweights to ever live. Tyson Fury dances like a fucking welterweight, has the power of a super heavyweight, right? And he's got the ancients behind him, okay? He's got all the gypsy love because he's a gypsy. He's got all of it. He practices. They know him. He's God-loving. He talks about mental health. He wears cute underwear, okay? Tyson Fury is in so many ways the people's champion. Usyk is not a natural heavyweight. He went up in weight. Tyson Fury has dismantled every major heavyweight player in the current era. These men are not built the same. Okay? They're not. Just from a fighting perspective. So the restraint that Zelensky demonstrated here, right? Knowing that he's there and however... there are so many different arguments around this shit. Zelensky's just doing this to get into NATO. He sacrifices people to do it. There's the reality that Russia invaded, right? There's different histories behind that. There's the fact that Russia has a massive advantage in this, but the fact that Ukrainians have stayed, fighting the way they have has a lot to do with their power, their resilience. And of course, there has been help. And one of the greatest criticisms around the United States, which I do agree with, this criticism is that it's like either help them all the way or figure out what the exit strategy is, because this whole like fucking halfway shit, what are we doing? Right? We're just dragging, we're helping to drag this on. But that this administration is 100, and these are not the full breadth of my thoughts, but that's for another episode. But what's really clear is that Trump and the current Trump administration are bitches for Netanyahu and bitches for Putin. Oh, by the way, one of you corrected me on the video, that AI video, and said it wasn't Netanyahu. It wasn't Putin at the end. It was Netanyahu. It was hard for me to tell because it just looked like they all looked like mashed potatoes. These like very melty white guys. But I appreciate that because that makes a lot of sense. They both make a lot of sense, but that one makes more sense to me. And also makes it even grosser. But they're all shills. They're just shills for Putin and shills for Netanyahu. And it's so fucking embarrassing. But I just wanted to take a moment and applaud Zelensky for his restraint, because he has this delicate balance where he's like, I'm not going to let you guys totally walk all over me, which they did. They curb stomped them. But the restraint that he showed, that's somebody that cares about his people. And that's the thing. Zelensky at the end of the day is doing for Ukraine what Ukrainians wanted, which is to fight and to never stop fighting.
Very good position.
They're very proud people. Oop, gotta hit play.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
It's like they went in there and they were like, we're gonna like bully this guy. Like, you don't talk to Netanyahu like that. Like that's you understand that's actually what we need to see, right? Like, if you want any respect, that's what we would need to see. And what's interesting is that Trump supporters who are not just angry at the economic state of affairs, but they are also identifying that you got a lot of smoke for this guy and not a lot of smoke for Netanyahu. They're mixed on Russia because they're not that smart. Those folks over there. But what is very, very, very clear is that they see the double standard. You are going so hard on this guy, but you bend over for Netanyahu. We bankroll fucking Israel so they could go kill more kids. Okay, cool.
You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful.
Trump is scolding him. He's got his finger out.
This country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting?
That was JD Vance. This is such a fucked up. Have you said thank you once? If you have ever gotten into an argument with an emotionally unstable or manipulative man, whatever gender you are, you know exactly what the fuck this is, right? Like this show of power, the gaslighting. You could start World War III, right? This is like if you missed their birthday, or no, this is like if it's your birthday and they forgot, this is how they come at you. Like they come at you like this, like, do you know what you've done? I forgot your birthday, but like, you're going to punish me for that forever? And it was like 5 minutes. Like this is exactly what that shit is. It's nuts. JD Vance is coming out of this couch fucker who decided he had a pair of nuts. They're in a room with like 28 to 30 fucking other dudes, all the GOP. Zelensky's like low-key by himself, right? They're all such fucking cornballs. Honest to God, this is not the same thing, and this is so irresponsible what I'm about to say. But in terms of what this felt, the way that they egged each other on and the way that they sought to humiliate this man and felt in a way about it or whatever, they looked like, in their eyes, the same type of person that was in the photos in lynch mobs, right? Like not the people who did it, because you never saw them, right? You never knew who did it, but they were all there and looking dead-eyed at this person. And that's mob mentality in general, right? The way that, and that's partly why, that's the one thing that does that, that does concern me about the human condition. It's like what happens in a mob mentality. You know what's funny? For all the people who say shit about the left and everything else, there's never been a protest that I've been in. Not one. And I've been in, I don't know, I want to undercut, maybe say dozens and dozens and dozens, but I've been in more than I could count. And never once felt that type of fear and that type of discomfort in my life. But just looking at these folks in that room, and that's what that brought up for me, just what I saw.
No, in this
Even
entire
today,
meeting that you said thank
even
you,
today.
you went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition.
You fucking couch fucking bitch, head shaped like a fucking ottoman. You probably got a silly dick like Elon Musk. Now you want to talk with your chest in a fully secure room. You would not talk to Zelensky this way if you were on your own. You fucking, careless bear bitch.
Offer some words of appreciation for
You should
the
see him looking over, like he keeps looking at the cameras when he's talking. He's such a bitch boy.
States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
The president he's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly.
Sorry, okay, no. That was, Zelensky was great at that. And then Trump interjected. And then, got weird. They clearly rehearsed this.
He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks.
You haven't been alone.
I'm playing this out, right? This is not my usual way. This is a 2 minute, 24-second clip because I need us to understand how fucking uncomfortable they made it, how weird this is. Like, it's to look this weak on the world stage for this long while the press was watching.
Wow. We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
That is a reference to Biden.
And you men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again, just say thank you.
And for the record, I did look into it. Zelensky has said thank you multiple times to the United States. Can't believe I have to say that.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's...
And I'm just gonna cut this out for a second. Part of why Zelensky was there was to sign a minerals deal, and he says I'm still ready to sign this deal. And he said, so Zelensky's remarks come, I'm reading this from the BBC. Zelensky's remarks come as U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, it was, quote, impossible to have an economic deal without a peace deal, right? So the whole point is that America will be extracting minerals from Ukraine. There's always somebody's pockets getting lined the fuck up. And I'm looking at time, so fuck. I wanted to tie this in to something that talks about Musk's Rogan appearance, where he's talking about the national debt, right? And I've told you I've done a lot more work on economy to make sure that I would never get shown up again, by not knowing everything I needed to know. And there's always so much more to learn. But the way that they talk and they've been talking about the national debt is incredibly disingenuous. And this sort of ties into it. We're spending all this money supporting Ukraine, and we could have been looking out for ourselves over here. And that's money that Americans can put in their pockets. And none of that is true. And actually, everything about how they've talked about the national debt is completely ass backwards, which I didn't even know. Now, I will save that for tomorrow in the interest of time. And because there's a couple other clips, right? There's a couple other clips here that I want to show, because this went on for so long. I want you to be fucking Ew, right? Ew. They're doing this while measles are just running rampant in Texas. And you might ask yourself, oh, okay, well, maybe now people in Texas, highly Republican state, right? Highly GOP owned. All the weirdos are running there. Great comedy scene, but still kind of weird, kind of extremist, right? You might be thinking, okay, well, maybe they're softening under all of this. No. Amid West Texas measles outbreak, no, vaccine resistance is hardening. This is where we're at. So, okay, you bully Zelensky for nothing. Well, certainly maybe the rest of the team is not a bunch of fucking losers, right? Poop sock losers. Oh, no, they are.
Second question. My second question for President Zelensky. Why don't you wear a suit?
My second question to President Zelensky is, why don't you wear a suit? He's been so vocal about that because his people are being fucking slaughtered. But this was asked to just, again, it's the pile-on campaign with these absolute fucking losers.
Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such.
Office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish. Okay. Yes, maybe.
If you heard that, you know Zelensky's given some of his fucking own back. Yeah, I'm not wearing no costume. Maybe after the war's finished. That's a good dig, because that's an ugly suit from a very ugly human being.
Well, maybe something like yours, yes. Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than, yeah.
Right? Maybe something better, which say you don't have any style, and also maybe something cheaper, as in, right? I am more in tune with the people and what they need than you are, you simple bitch.
Thank you. Thank you for
He basically called him a clown, and honestly, I mess with that so hard. So here's a quick segment on what happened afterwards. Oop, here we go. Oh, wow, I made that small somehow when I wanted to make it big. Here we go. So this is covering what happened immediately after.
Went up to the press area to get an understanding of what we're watching. This is what I was told. The president has kicked Zelensky out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. Officials in the room felt that beyond the language barrier that we've heard some discussion about, Zelensky's body language, shrugging and eye rolling, was ungrateful, disrespectful.
It literally, he was so impressive in terms of his restraint. Like, unbelievably so.
And the president feels that Zelensky is not ready for peace, and he can come back when he's ready to talk about peace, but he's not in that position right now, and Zelensky is being told he's got to go. The lunch that they were supposed to have is sitting right outside the hallway, and
I love that that's a detail, but also, what was it? Don't bring up the fucking lunch if you're not going to tell. I would love to know what the lunch is between, like, one country and another. What is it? What is it?
Staffers are going to be eating that lunch.
You know what? Wrong thing, but I'm furious about that. Don't do that. Don't tease us with food. I read menus for fun. Don't fucking do that. You know? But wait, focus. So the whole point here is Putin was fucking ecstatic, 100%, right? But this Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and their billionaire backers ran on a campaign promising the American people that they would end these wars immediately. They've done no such thing. They've kowtowed to authoritarians. The fact that Trump is bending over this far for Russia is actually unprecedented for any president of the United States since, the Cold War, and even before then. It's frankly embarrassing. And the joke is, you've got Hegseth who's saying, we're not going to be doing as much cybersecurity on Russia. And you know what? They might increase their shit, but they might not need to, because every aspect of the chaos agent infiltration that they wanted, they're already, it's already happening. It's already happening. They don't even have to pay for people to come here anymore. Like, the Trump administration is making it so that it's easy to happen. You're gutting the systems of checks and balances and security systems that focused on Russia. Putin will have his way, absolutely, and it seems like Netanyahu is slated too. It depends on when the American people wake the fuck up. You know, we don't need a lot from their side, but we need a lot from the non-engaged people and a hell of a lot more from our folks. You know, and I'm all for jumping down the throats of the establishment Dems, but I'm just not seeing enough. There's just like this assumption, like we already know that we're against them and that we can't do anything against them anyway. And I'm like, we could stand to do a hell of a lot more, right? We could stand to do. You're taking actions against Hakeem Jeffries. That guy's a fucking idiot. He's not doing shit. They don't care, right? And I know we could say the same thing for the fascists, but shouldn't we have it on record that we are against them? I'm not seeing enough of that. I would love to see more. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But he ran on a promise that he was going to end these wars, and now he's just stretching them out. He's just stretching them out for pettiness. For pettiness. That's it. It's all about humiliating people. These are the weakest men in the world are currently in charge in one of the most powerful offices of the world. And that's where we're at. I can't believe we just saw that much dumb bitch behavior. Oh my fucking God. Okay. Shit, we're at that time. Ooh, I didn't even pull up a question. Okay, it's fine. It's the first one back. We talked Oscars. We talked Russia, Ukraine, America, but most importantly, I got to talk to you, and that's my favorite fucking thing to do. I guess what I want to say to wrap it up is don't buy into the hype. A lot of the appearances of glitz and glam aren't exactly what they seem, and that your work and what you do and what you think and how you feel is, well, it's just as damn relevant as anybody else's all the time. All the time. There's a million things, a million thoughts and ideas that we need in this world. You know, however you choose to do it, however, you know, it feels, whatever process of creation. I don't even care if you walk down the street and give somebody a smile. You are so important, right? Every time that we take ourselves out of the situation, just think that some dickhead might fill that void. You are so important. You're important to the world. You're important to me. Well, that's our Monday. I'm going to get super sappy because that's what happens after midnight. Why don't I just hit that outro music before I turn into the biggest loser ever? No, just kidding. That's our current administration. Okay. Just want to say thank you so much for listening to Dark Woke. It means the absolute world to me. The show really is a labor of love. New episodes are dropping all the time. We're available everywhere podcasts are. Don't forget that Dark Woke is self-funded. If you love the show, please feel free to support it as best you can. Our Patreon is patreon.com/darkwoke. Don't forget, I want to hear from you. Drop your questions to darkwokejfk@gmail.com. Shout out to KR and the JFK team, and shout out to you, the listeners, that make it all possible. Love you!